let's start with creating light and shadow using tints, tones, and shades. So what are we going to study today? So we will study understanding about how light falls on an object and how a painting looks flat if you don't use that in your painting. Then we'll understand what is tints, tones, and shades and how to use these three tools to create light and shadow in your painting. Then I will tell you 5 simple steps on how to create that light and shadow effect in your painting. Then we will have like a live demo. Then you can ask me any questions that you have associated with this topic. Okay. Your painting isn't bad. It just needs a bit of light. So can you see these two red circles? So this is a flat red circle. And you know it is a one-dimensional image because there is no difference in the tones or shade. There's nothing defining it or there's nothing giving it depth. But at the same time, you can see the red ball here. You can see a lot of shades of red here and how that is creating a beautiful three-dimensional effect on this ball. So what are the reasons why your painting looks flat? This thing, it has the same color everywhere. There is no depth difference and there is no direction of light. You don't know where the light is falling in this particular red circle, correct? But in this, you know where exactly the light is falling in. It's coming in from this direction. You can visually make out the light's reflection over here and the shadow that is falling behind the light, okay? Going on to how to create this depth in our paintings, we can use three things. One is the tints, tones, and shades. Okay, hue is a color term that determines what the color is. Let's say I'll just say this bottle is white. It's a white paint bottle, so it is white is the hue. White is the most prominent color. Similarly, in this cup, okay, it's a pink color. So pink is the most prominent hue in this particular cup. So every shape, every true color is called as a hue. Okay. And when we mix something to that true color, we get something called as tints, tones, and shades. Okay. So what are tints? Tints is when we mix the color with white. Then tone is when you mix the color with gray. And shade is when you mix the color with black. So I hope these three terms are clear for you. So as a beginner, when you hear this, you might get overwhelmed. Oh, what is this tints, tones, and shade? Where do I use it? So don't get too confused about it. Just know that there are three terms which actually matches to something called as grayscale. So what is grayscale? So grayscale is basically if you take a black and white photograph, you can see that there are like white areas or there are like little gray areas and little black areas. And if you take a black and white photograph. So similarly, we can build a painting using this grayscale. Okay. So for that, these tints, tones, and shades help us. So when you mix the color to white, mix the color to gray, and you mix the color to black, you can build the painting using this grayscale or using the value. It's all called as value. You will learn in depth later on, but for now, we just need to know about tints, tones, and shades. And when you mix the main color to white, you get the tint. When you mix the main color to gray, you get the tone. And when you mix the main color to black or darker shades too, you get a shade, okay? So I hope these three terms are clear. Here in this ball, we can see the almost true color of the ball is coming here. So this is the true color. Then this portion where the light is falling, here you can see the light is falling, right? So this portion, we get the tint, okay? Then towards the midsection, we get the tone or the gray when you mix it with gray. And toward the bottommost or the most darkest portion, we get the shade. Okay, so in this three-dimensional ball, you can see how one color is split into three compartments of it to create this three-dimensional effect based on where the light falls. So let's understand tints. Tints is the most lightest portion or it is the highlight portion of your painting or your object. Tone is the most closest to the true shade and it is created by adding gray. So it is used for midtones and the base layer. So when we build up paintings in layer, you can always use the tone as the first layer and then build up the painting like how I'm going to show you in the demo. So we mix the true color with gray to get a tone. The light is falling from above. You can see that there are two shades that happens here, okay? There's a light reflection because it's a shiny ball. So texture also matters. There's a little bit of reflection from underneath Okay, whatever the surface it was lying on, a white surface, there is a light reflection onto it. That is why we are not getting a true tone on this particular ball, okay, because it's a shiny ball. So texture also matters in still life when you come. We'll learn about it later. Then the last one is the shade or the shadow part, okay. So in this part, shade is where the light disappears, okay. Where the light disappears, it creates a lot of drama and form. It creates the depth. It defines the boundary of the object. So when you mix the true color with black or darker shades, you get a shade of that color. In case of red, we can even mix complementary colors to get the darker shades. You don't have to always stick to black to create your shades. You can use a bit of the complementary color to create a shade. In this ball, here is where the shade comes. So how do you build a painting? So whenever, if let's say we want to build up a painting of this cup. So first of all, we need to imagine where the light source is. So right now, this laptop is the light source. You can see here. Okay, I'm just giving you a visual example. So because the laptop is a light source here, that is most, and it's a shiny cup. So you can see here is where the highlight or the tint comes. You can see the tone. Tone is a true color, which you're building it up as a base. Shadow will come behind the cup. So I hope that you got the visual example. So when you build up, first you imagine where the light source is, you build up with the tone, then you give the shades and then the tint. That's how you build it up and then gently blend it. Now it's demo time. Is this concept clear for you, tints, tones, and shades?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great, great. Thank you. Thank you for. So now I'm going to show you a demo, kind of like this, okay? How we are going to use the tin stones and shades to create this, okay? So I'm going to be using a crimson red. Then I'm going to be using a little darker gray here rather than black. And then I'm going to be using gray and then white I'm just taking from the bottle here, okay? So we have our black, then red, then gray and white, okay? Now for starters, we're going to do a circle, okay? So for that, I'm just going to be using, I'll just use this cup here, okay? You can use any object. So I'm going to start painting, okay? Just a light outline that I've given here, okay? For you to see better, just a small circle. Now let's imagine the light, okay? Where do you want the light to come from? We will imagine the light to come from this area, okay? Now for tin stones and shades, I'll just mix a bit and show you. I'm going to be using a small round brush, red here. Red is this crimson is a very bold pinkish red, okay? I'm going to take a little bit of, I'll show you the tint first. So we'll mix red and white to get the tint. So this is a tint of crimson. Then going on to, I'll just put the true color here just for reference. It's a very translucent red. So we have the true color, we have the tint. Then let's mix gray and the red. Okay. This is the tone. Okay, it's kind of closest to the true color. Then we will mix very tiny amount of black. We don't go for a lot of black. We will mix a little bit of black and red. Very tiny amount because black is a strong color. Okay, I'm not even using black here. I'm using like a dark gray, but it does look like black. So we have created the tint, the tone, and the shade. Now building up this painting. So I am imagining my light to be coming from this side. Okay. So the first step is what? The first step is to build up the first layer with the tone. So I'm going to be using the tone that we mixed here. Okay, we mixed the tone here. Just going to fill it out. Okay. Now this layer, even if it goes out of the boundary, it's absolutely fine. You can mix a bit of water and build up the painting if you feel like your paint is not flowing enough. Now, you might ask, like, how much is the ratio of grays and how much of ratio of white and black I should add? So that all depends on what shade you want for your painting, and also it depends on how you practice and you just get an idea. You don't have to stick to like this much amount of gray, this much amount of red. You can just paint and get like one smooth shade all around. Okay, so just finishing the first layer. I'm just trying to be as round as possible, but this step is best done when you do the background. Okay, as in like after you build up your circle, you can build up. So next we will go on to putting out the shade. Okay, so when our light is falling here, this I'm imagining my light source to be here. This is the point where the light source is. So kind of this whole area is going to be the shade. Just going to line the edge and then spread it out. Okay, you can build it layer by layer and start blending. Okay, now if you want to blend it on using a wet on wet technique, that's also absolutely fine. Okay, add in some water and okay, that will do. Using a round brush to just smoothen that out. Now the darkest portion can even give a shadow in the end. So I'm using wet on wet technique. That's why I'm just putting black directly on the paper. Okay. But if you are, if you want to do it very slowly and neatly, you can always mix the paint and then apply it. Okay. Okay. So I've given like a shade and I'm stopping there. Don't overdo it. Just stop when you feel like you need to. Okay. I'm stopping mine over there. Okay. Just to give you an idea, you can refine it. Always, always, always layer and layer and layer and refine. Okay. Next, I'm going to the highlight. So I know my point is here. Yeah. So I'm going to start circling around that. Okay. Just blending. You can stop as in when you feel like, when you feel like you've gotten your desired effect, you can stop. But it's always nice to keep on blending. I'm adding a little bit of water. This paintbrush is wet. This paintbrush is dry. Just using different techniques for blending. This is a more softer ball, not like the shiny one which I showed you. For shiny balls, we will have to do a lot of highlights, whites. Okay, that's how you build up those kind of shiny balls. But for this demo, I'm just going to show you this. Okay, just going to soften it out with the dry brush. Yeah, I can definitely keep on adding more and more layers, especially in the white area. And if you want to keep it shiny, you can do this white dot here. I'm just going to soften it, but you can also use your fingers to do the blending. Okay, so I'm actually showing you different techniques on blending. also in this. Okay. So there you have it. This is how it looks. It's not like a beautiful round. You can definitely paint around the edges black or preferably whichever the background is, and create that shape correctly. But you can see how the shadow and the shade and the tint has given you a very three-dimensional effect than from how it was before in when we just painted the tones. So this is what we painted now. It's not a perfect circle, but definitely you can make it a perfect circle by drawing out the background and refining the edges, creating a cast shadow. All this will help you create out a perfect circle. Okay. But you can see how it becomes three-dimensional when you just give a shade and you give a tint. Yeah. Okay. So this is how we use tints and tones and shades in our painting.